So today we're going to talk about boundaries and why your yes means absolutely nothing without a no. Welcome to Legacy Lounge, the podcast where you'll discover how to lead with purpose and build a legacy that matters. So if you're ready to step into your full potential, show up authentically for yourself and others, and create a lasting impact on the world, you're in the right place. Let's begin. Hello, leaders, and welcome back to the Legacy Lounge. I'm your host, Brin'na Rollins-Williams, and you might notice two new furry friends with me today. These are my dogs, Jax and Oliver, who's below me. So if you're listening to this episode instead of viewing on YouTube, please know that if I pause, it's likely because they spotted the mailman. Now, I know the word boundaries carries a lot of weight, and I know that you might even be squirming just a little bit as I kick off on what this episode is even about. Please hang with me. This is not the fluffy stuff that's self-care boundaries, but we're talking about boundaries as your own secret weapon, and your own secret weapon for scaling your impact. Picture this. I'm a district senior director for Target, operating $580 million in revenue a year across 10 stores in 2 states. And my default was say yes to everything. Early morning calls? Yeah, sure, I'm available. Late night follow-up? Yeah, sure, I'm on it. Extra project that's running late because there was a lack of planning on my leader's foresight? Yeah, sure, I'll help you out, boss, no problem. Weekend emergencies? Yeah, absolutely. All over it. Yes, yes, yes. Every meeting request, typically I accepted the invite without even looking at when the meeting was going to take place and if that was doubling up with something else on my calendar. Luckily, I had a really good admin who helped straighten things out, but it even took her saying, I don't know how you're going to follow through on all of this. A lot of these overlap. Some of these you're not needed on, but I had made it up in my mind that I needed to be attending. I needed to be in attendance for absolutely everything that was sent my way. Why? Because I loved saying yes. Turns out that was very unsustainable. Shocker. I thought that I was being indispensable, and instead I just was burning myself out to not be sustainable. And the wake-up call came after panic attacks in the bathroom stall, which I've talked about multiple times, but they also happened in a lot of different places for an extended period of time. And that was a signal that my body was forcing a boundary that I mentally and verbally refused to do to myself. And that's when I realized that my constant availability wasn't just physically, mentally, emotionally hurting me. It was also crippling my entire district's potential, their growth. I was the problem. Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. Insert perfectly right there. So here's the truth bomb. Every time that you say yes to something non-strategic, you are saying no to something that could transform your business. And my yes to answering emails at midnight was a no to strategic planning. My yes to every meeting invite was a no to being physically present with my team, developing their autonomy because I got to join another call. My yes to a constant firefighting response was a no to educating, teaching, and building that muscle within my team to build the prevention mechanism systems for me to not have to recycle that again in the future. So for district leaders, VPs, regional leaders, anyone that operates a multi-unit business, meaning there's multiple departments that you oversee. You're responsible for both operations and team. This is for you. Because one of those examples likely resonated with you, and you're so busy managing upward always and putting out fires that you're actually not building systems that prevent them from happening again in the future. And if you're not a multi-unit leader and you're listening to this episode as an entrepreneur, whoa, this is a total game changer for you. Think about it. You are saying yes to every opportunity that you likely have, every client request, every quick favor, every, hey, can you help take a look at this? Hey, can I get your thoughts on this? Hey, what do you think about this or that? Or, yeah, we would love to have you be involved with this. All of those yeses reprioritize you as an entrepreneur. It reprioritizes your own business strategy. That gets pushed to the back burner. So I tried something radical. I started treating my boundaries just like a P&L statement. And for corporate leaders out there, you're probably like, why? Why would you do that? Or how would you even start? But I created a strategic boundary budget for myself. Having ADHD, I love lists. I love follow-up. I love checking off boxes. And by understanding my own personal leadership style is a unlock to self-leadership that has found an avenue that works for me. So if you feel like you're spinning a wheel and you don't know where to start and you feel like you don't have an extra hour on your calendar for yourself, book a call. We need to talk. But back to the topic here. Creating a strategic boundary budget, just like every single business is built upon. It is a financial budget. And I created one for my time. I created one for my energy, and I created one for my attention. And in regards to strategic priorities, here's the breakdown. At least the breakdown that I did for myself. It might give you a starting place. 60% of my time, after tracking a week's worth of physical hours dedicated to focused work business time, 60% is allocated for the work that only I can do. So on your end, 60% of your time should be only the work that you can do, not something you can delegate, not something that you can come back to and think on later. It's the work that you can do that is your actual job. 25% was dedicated to building capability in others. And when you are responsible to lead other people as a multi-unit leader, or you are an entrepreneur responsible to lead yourself, learning how to teach someone else to be autonomous is an absolute efficiency gain if you put the work up front. So 60% only on the work that you can do, 25% focused on team development, and as an entrepreneur, self-leadership. Then 10% is on innovation and learning. This one was really hard for me because I personally love the creative brainstorming phase. I could live in that all day long. It's like fireworks of ideas going off in my mind at any point in time, even mid-conversation with someone. My wheels are always spinning, and I love that space. But that wasn't productive of my time to move my business forward. And at Target, that was not a strategic use of my time. And I had to get tactical in how I set a boundary for that, for me. So 10% of my time could go into the phase that I love, staying ahead of the curve and living in the strategy in the brainstorming phase. Last but not least, and I definitely took this amount for granted, is flexibility buffer time, 5%. Because if we keep it real, stuff happens all the time. And just like a financial budget, when something new comes up, I have to be able to ask myself, what am I willing to cut in order to make room for this? We all know we can have great plans. We can spend hours mapping out every single detail. And then all of a sudden, pivot, resilience, adaptability, come into play. But thinking long enough to ask yourself of how you slice and dice your time, what am I willing to cut in order to make room for this new thing that is a yes, will absolutely change the game of what you commit to yourself to spend your time on. So here's the boundary decision-making framework. And if you are currently in motion listening to this in your car, it'll be in the show notes for you to follow along. And if you're sitting down and listening to this on a lunch break or in a quick moment and you're stationary, maybe write it down and try it for yourself. Start with this. Is this aligned with my strategic priorities? If it is not moving the needle on what matters most, it has to be a no. Another prompting question. Am I the best person for this? If someone else can do 80% as well, not 100%, not a carbon copy of you. If another person can do 80% as well as you, that is something you should delegate. Another prompt is to ask, what is the real cost of saying yes? It's not just time. It's also energy, focus, and opportunity cost. But if we move fast all the time with yeses, we skip the actual impact it's making. Another prompt. What happens if I don't do this? This one's one of my favorites because as a formal people pleaser, I love to say yes. It's almost automatic. Before the question of can I do, will I do I want to? Before it's even done being asked, typically I'm like, yes, sign me up. Where do I start? What do we do? And that's people pleasing. It's reaction. It's not strategic. And it's also a really fast path to burning yourself out. It's not selfish to set boundaries. Back to the prompt. What happens if I don't do this? Often, the answer to that is absolutely nothing catastrophic. You can take that for what it is. Last prompt. Does this serve my long-term vision? Or am I just avoiding short-term discomfort? The results of doing this exercise not only blew my mind, it also upped overall performance on deliverable increases by double digits in 7 days. And we were ranked pretty well to begin with, but we got tighter, we got more strategic, we got more planful, and we became more energetic. We weren't depleted by all the other commitments that we were doing and going from back to back to back call, back to back to back meeting, back to back task. There was replenish time. But when it comes to strategic initiatives, they were completed on time. I actually started enjoying my job more. I absolutely fell in love with leadership again. And multi-unit leaders out there, it's really hard to do, but it's possible if you choose to change the path that you're on. But instead of just surviving another day, coming home completely depleted and exhausted, man, I was thriving. I genuinely was thriving. And I think what nobody tells us about boundaries is that they're not just personal protection. They're also incredibly useful as a team development tool. And the first time that I said no to a weekend emergency, if you will, I did feel physically ill. But you know what happened? My team figured it out. They leaned on each other. They called who was available, who was on the schedule, who they knew was working. And they were so proud of themselves to tell me that they figured out the solution. And that's when I realized that, man, I really have a lack of boundaries, not only for myself that I can recognize, but I'm actually projecting this out into the team. And when you recognize that, you also have to be accountable to the fact that that is stunting your team's growth. So you got to get out of the way. For the district managers listening, every single time you swoop in to solve a problem, you are robbing your manager or your direct report from developing their problem-solving skills. And for my entrepreneur listeners, every time that you say yes to being the bottleneck in your own business, you're also saying no to building something that is scalable. So here's the shift. I stopped trying to be a hero. I stopped trying to save the day and save everyone's problems and hold it all together with one big deep breath, waiting for something else to happen or waiting for one more to do. And I started being the leader who built heroes instead, the ones that could save their own day. And as a leader, that's our job. My team stopped looking at me for every answer because I wasn't always available to give them the answer, to give them the next step, to tell them what to do. Yes, I was a district senior director, but directing is also building autonomy in the team to be able to do it for themselves. And their confidence, it skyrocketed. My stress was at an all-time low at that time, but talk about an ultimate win-win. Years later, figuring this out on an entrepreneur path, embarrassingly took me way too long to recognize what was going on. But when I did, it came back like second nature. Now, let's be real about the pushback, because some people will get upset when you start setting boundaries. But here's what I've learned. Those are usually the people who benefit from your very own lack of boundaries. Your boss who expects you to be available 24/7. They need to learn to plan better. Your team member who brings you every single small decision, they need to learn how to trust themselves. And as an entrepreneur, the client who expects instantaneous responses, well, they need to learn to respect your strategic value. The uncomfortable truth is that some relationships will change when you set boundaries, but the ones that matter, they're about to get a whole lot stronger. I had to have some really hard conversations. Most of them started with me in the mirror, me to me. But after that, I started with my team. I had hard conversations. I did have to disappoint some people along the way, but I also had to choose between being liked and being effective. I will always choose effectiveness. So here's your homework. And I mean, actually try to do this week. Create your own strategic boundary budget and treat it like a P&L, like a company does. Commit to yourself and try it. Look at your calendar from the last week. Mark it up. Where did your time actually go? And if you look at your calendar last week and you know you did a lot of stuff and it's not represented on there, try to track it this week. See where your time is going. Is that disruption serving your strategic goals? Because if not, you are entitled to choose a different path and to tweak your own approach. Pick one boundary to set, make it small, make it clear, and make it consistent. Maybe for yourself, it is no emails after 8 p.m. Maybe it's blocking 2 hours every Tuesday morning for strategic work, because you know that's when you have your power hours where you're just on fire and you're clear and you're focused. See what happens. Start there. Audit yourself for when you have an automatic yes. What are the patterns? Who are the people? What are you saying yes to out of habit that you should be saying no to strategically? For my multi-unit leaders, stop being the solution to every problem. Start empowering your team. Be the developer of the problem solvers. And for my entrepreneurs, stop being available for everything and start being strategic about your availability. Remember that your boundaries aren't barriers to success, but they are the foundation of it. Every great business strategy starts with knowing what you are not going to do. Your energy, your attention, and time, they are your most valuable business assets. Budget them like you budget your money. And DM me, respond to this episode, email me. What's one boundary that you are going to choose for yourself to set this week? Because as always, I'm going to be rooting for you, even when it's super uncomfortable. Until next time, keep your boundaries strong and keep your strategy stronger. That's it for this episode of Legacy Lounge, a podcast dedicated to empowering you to lead with purpose. Remember, leadership begins with you. When you're connected to your values, strengths, and authentic self, you show up powerfully for your team, businesses, and everyone you lead. To authentically lead others, you must first lead yourself. I challenge you to consider, how are you investing in your personal growth to create a legacy that you envision? Thank you for joining me in the Legacy Lounge. If this episode sparked any thoughts or inspired action, I'd love to hear from you. I'm your host, Brin'na Rollins-Williams. Connect with me on LinkedIn or other socials, and let's continue the conversation. Remember, your legacy is built one intentional step at a time.